The Adventures of Captain Underpants, the first epic novel by Dave Pilkey. Chapter 1, George and Harold. Meet George Beard and Harold Hutchins. George is the kid on the left with the tie and the flat top. Harold is the one on the right with the t-shirt and the bad haircut. Remember that now. George and Harold were best friends. They had a lot in common. They lived right next door to each other, and they were in the same fourth grade class at Jerome Hortwitz Elementary School. George and Harold were usually responsible kids. Whenever anything bad happened, George and Harold were usually responsible. But don't get the wrong idea about these two. George and Harold were actually very nice boys. No matter what everybody else thought, they were good, sweet, and lovable. Well, okay, maybe they weren't so sweet and lovable, but they were good nonetheless. It's just that George and Harold each had a silly streak, a mile long. Usually the silly streak was hard to control sometimes. It got them into big trouble, and once it got them into big trouble. But before I can tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. Chapter 2, Treehouse Comics, Inc. After a hard day of cracking jokes, pulling pranks, and causing mayhem at school, George and Harold liked to rush to the old treehouse in George's backyard. Inside the treehouse were two big, old, fluffy chairs, a table, a cupboard crammed with junk food, a padlocked crate filled with pencils, pens, and stacks of paper. Now, Harold loved to draw, and George loved to make up stories. And together, the two boys spent hours and hours writing and drawing their very own comics books. Over the years, they had created hundreds of their own comics, starting dozens of their own superheroes. First, there was Dogman. Then came Timmy, the talking toilet, and who could forget the amazing Cow Lady? But the all-time greatest superhero they ever made had to be the amazing Captain Underpants. George came up with the idea. Most superheroes look like they're flying around in their underwear, he said. Well, this guy actually is flying around his underwear. The two boys laughed and laughed. Yeah, said Harold. He could fight with wedgie power. George and Harold spent entire afternoons writing and drawing the comic Adventures of Captain Underpants. He was their coolest superhero ever. Luckily for the boys, the secrety as Jerome Hortwitz Elementary School was much too busy to keep an eye on the machine. So whenever they got a chance, Harold and George would sneak into the office and run off several hundred copies of their latest Captain Underpants adventure. After school, they sold their homemade comics on the playground for 50 cents each. Chapter 3, The Adventures of Captain Underpants. Written by George Beard, cartoons by Harold Hutchins. The really cool adventures of Captain Underpants. Written by George Beard, drawn by Harold Hutchins. It was time of darkness and despair for planet Earth. Bad guys had taken over the streets, and all of the superheroes in the world were too old to fight evil. Hey, haha. Then came along a new improved extra-strength superhero. Tra-la-la. Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's an egg salad sandwich. No way, I'm Captain Underpants. Captain Underpants was faster than a speeding wasteman. Zoom, more powerful than boxer shorts. Rip, and able to leap tall buildings without getting a wedgie. Tra-la-la. Night and day, Captain Underpants watched over the city, fighting for truth, justice, and all that is pre-shrunken cottony. Meanwhile, at a nearby elementary school, it was Stinky Taco Surprise Day at the cafeteria. Yuck. Everybody hated it so much, they all threw it away. Soon the cafeteria food came to life. I am the inedible hunk. The monster ran around the school, eating everything in sight. Munch. Help! The inedible hunk just ate 15 folding chairs and the gym teacher. Oh no, not the folding chairs! This looks like a job for tra-la-la Captain Underpants. Captain Underpants shot lots of underwear at the monster, but it didn't do any good. Munch, munch, zip! So Captain Underpants took off running. The inedible hunk chased him. Grrr, help me. And chased him. And